My name is Julian Rodriguez. I'm a detective currently assigned to the Gang Homicide Unit, the Santa Ana Police Department. And at the time of this incident, I was a patrol officer working in the Northeast Division, and I've been a police officer for just over 10 years. As I was driving northbound on Tustin Avenue, I start seeing debris in the roadway. And as I start tracking the debris off to my left, I see a car that had collided into a brick planter in a parking lot of a business. And as soon as I get there, I see all this debris in the roadway, and I look over to my left and I see a car that's crashed into a planter. It's dripping fire from under the engine compartment, and there's a guy trapped inside. So I put out a request for the fire department and for my partners to assist me, and I made my way to the car to try and put the fire down and get this guy out.
Julian puts out that he's come across a major traffic collision, and that there's fire coming from the car, and that there's an individual trapped behind the driver's seat.
I cut the shoulder lap, or the shoulder portion of his seatbelt, and as I'm doing that, I realized that the fire was growing a lot faster than I had anticipated. The first thing I saw was what I believe was maybe oil or just some liquid from the engine compartment, and it was dripping, but as it was dripping, I could see it was on fire. It started to get pretty hot, and that's when I decided I was probably safer trying to put down the fire in case I couldn't get this guy out by myself. So I ran back to my car, and I got a fire extinguisher, and around the same time, my partner, Edward Gutierrez, showed up.
It was then that I noticed that the driver, who was unconscious, was still behind the wheel. My name's Edward Gutierrez. I'm an officer with the Santa Ana Police Department. Been an officer for a little over 19 years. I'm currently assigned to Special Investigation SWAT. Officer Rodriguez was on the first fire extinguisher trying to extinguish the flames. I reached over, grabbed the driver, and tried to pull him out. He wouldn't move, wouldn't budge. As I had mentioned, he was unconscious, which made it a little harder because his body's just completely limp. As the fire started to grow, Officer Rodriguez went back to the fire extinguisher. Again, I'm still trying to pull this guy out, and nothing's moving.
And you really couldn't see much inside the engine compartment or the passenger compartment. Even when my partners got into the car, I couldn't even really see them moving around too much, other than the fact that I knew that they were in there. I felt that we had to get this guy out as fast as possible, and I was actually very worried for my partners who had crawled inside the car.
The seatbelt had been cut, but I still undid it, thinking maybe this is holding us up. The steering wheel, I couldn't see what it was.
The car was pretty mangled, so actually Ed had to fight with the right front passenger door. The right rear passenger door was operable, so I was able to climb in through the back seat ultimately.
I'm at the driver's side of the vehicle, trying to wake this guy up. He's unresponsive. Julian's with the fire extinguishers trying to put out the flames that are coming up. We're starting to lap out of the underneath the hood and through the front dash of the car.
The victim obviously being in the driver's seat, being wedged. I looked down onto the floorboard, and using a flashlight was able to see that his feet were wedged under there. Wedged up under the pedals, the brake pedal and the gas pedal. How they got there, I don't know, but that was what was keeping us from pulling him out. They were wedged up under there so tight that I physically had to reach down there and undo each foot with my hand as the smoke and the heat was coming through the firewall of the car.
When we did pull him out, one of the things that I noticed, the heat was fairly intense at that time, and it was to such a point where the victim's shoes had melted, and he was wearing corduroy pants as well, and the corduroy had actually stuck together. So it was starting to really build up and get hot in there. He had gone through several fire extinguishers, and I think he was on his last fire extinguisher at the time. So he was saying that, hey, I'm on my last fire extinguisher. So I mean, the pressure was really on, and you could feel it in a lot of different ways.
We both grabbed the driver, and we pull him out of the car. Once we pull him out, we took him across the street, and I mean, within seconds, the car was all fully engulfed, and it took a matter of about a minute or two, and the car had just burned to the ground.
It was at that time that we realized how close it really was, and we just kind of all looked at each other, kind of in shock of how lucky this guy was. Again, this was an area that we didn't spend a whole lot of time patrolling in. The stars were aligned for this guy, big time, so he's very fortunate.
We had no time to spare. It was either get him out or lose him. And it was a little bit of a scary feeling while you're going through it, because of me, because of my partners, because all of us working together got this guy out of the car. Not one of us could have done it, not two of us could have done it, but it took all 4 guys to get this guy out. Julian went through 3 fire extinguishers, not to put the fire out, but to try and control it, to do what we had to do. And you know, if it wasn't for him doing that and everybody working together, it would have been, there could have been an ugly end to that story.
It was just coincidence, mere coincidence, that I decided to travel up that road at that time. I believe I missed the collision by just a few seconds. And I think had I not been there at that time to request assistance and to at least help put down the fire a little bit, this guy most definitely would have been dead. If someone would have had to call the police, even for us to arrive, if not the fire department. It was amazing not knowing how fast a car fire could spread, just how fast the whole car became engulfed during this process. So it was definitely his lucky day.